The room after Cleveland felt thinner than air, like the walls had been moved a little closer without anyone touching them. Helmets clicked into shelves with careful hands. Tape peeled slower than usual, and nobody needed to be told what 31-6 looks like on film. Trainers moved around quietly, as if stepping on a floor that might crack. A few players stared at the stat sheet, but everyone already knew. That wasn't a bad day. That was a hit to the core. You could feel the questions forming in the silence. Who are we now? And who do we want to be by Sunday? Someone tied their cleats, stopped halfway, untied them again. Another player folded his gloves twice, then a third time, then left them on the bench. No speeches, just the gravity that shows up when a team realizes the league is not waiting for answers. Outside, the cameras did their job. Inside, the clock began the next week without asking anyone for permission. Atlanta doesn't care about last week's scars. They show up and make you prove you remember who you are. Kirk Cousins keeps the pocket honest, and that kind of veteran calm can turn a mistake into a drive before you catch your breath. Miami's week began with quiet meetings and clipped sentences. The coaches trimmed language in the playbook, circled problem areas with thick marker, and asked for accountability without dressing it up. Players ran through early practice with a focus that looked stern from afar but restless up close. There's no hiding from the tape. Late protection calls, a route that drifted a yard short, a handoff mesh a beat off tempo. It all adds up when a defense across from you enjoys watching you argue with yourself. The relationship that once felt like a lifeline. Head coach and quarterback in sync, ideas flowing, rhythm pouring down the field, now flickers. Not a collapse, not a dramatic breakup, nothing that easy. Just friction. A pause before answering in front of microphones. A glance to the sideline that lingers longer than it should. On the field, the timing that once hummed like it knew the future now hesitates. The mechanics are still there. The arm is still there. The concept still carves space. But the conviction has been leaking. You can sense it in the way the quarterback looks over protections and checks the defense again. You sense it when a wide receiver turns after a catch and expects a signal that never comes. It's not one thing. It's a lot of small things that refuse to stay small when the score is lopsided. Around the league, people talk. That's not new. What stings is when the critique feels like it was cooked in your own kitchen. The line about an aimless program didn't need to be clever to cut. Teams get labeled when their roster looks assembled by patches, when expensive pieces are leaned on to cover holes that never got sewn from the draft. The Dolphins lived heavy at the top of the depth chart and light at the back, and you don't need a spreadsheet to know how that story tends to end by Halloween. A couple of drafts with fewer swings, a couple of swings that didn't land, and suddenly veterans are asked to be both the spine and the muscle. That works until it doesn't, and when it doesn't, the criticism from anonymous corners feels less like gossip and more like an echo. There is history in the building, and it isn't distant. Chris Greer has been here long enough to own both the highs and the shortfalls, carrying final say since 2019. Mike McDaniel arrived in 2022 with fresh answers and turned a stagnant offense into something that jumped off the screen. Tua Tagovailoa came in 2020 and rebuilt himself in the face of every question anyone could throw, then faced new ones with a straight back. Anthony Weaver stepped in on defense in 2024, inheriting a room that wanted answers as badly as it wanted stops. These timelines overlap in ways that make blame feel lazy. Everyone's fingerprints are on the plan. Everyone has a share of the urgency. None of that matters on a fourth and 3 in the second quarter when the crowd is loud and somebody has to decide whether to live with the run or trust the matchup outside. So the week becomes a search. Receivers rep the motion details until the lines on the grass told the story back to them. A slot release that used to be a half step too shallow was forced deeper, even if it felt unnatural at first. The quarterback lived in the cadence menu, changing rhythm to steal a hint of leverage. The line drilled the cue set and the jump set until the counts synced with the play clock. Run fits were walked through until the linebackers could call them out without looking. The defense studied Cousins' change of pace. The quick trigger throws on second and medium. The patience at the top of the drop when the picture isn't clean. The way he waits a beat for the intermediate window to breathe. Special teams tune coverage lanes, because Atlanta will challenge your eyes and punish the lazy angle. Every detail, every reminder, every stubborn coaching point. This is what a week looks like when pride is the only thing you can cash. And the truth beneath all of it is simple. The Dolphins haven't been short on talent. They've been short on clean execution when the opponent pushes back. That isn't a single player's burden. It's how penalties take meals off your table. It's how a 2nd and 5 become 2nd and 15 and your call sheet collapses. It's how the run game, when it is sharp, makes everything feel lighter, and when it is stuffed, the offense tries to float on air. The defense, for its part, needs a first-quarter series that ends with a hit the whole sideline hears. One play that says the last game is over. One takeaway that reminds everyone what it looks like when the ball finds you because you've been disciplined for 12 straight snaps. Nobody says this out loud, but everyone knows it. Credibility inside a locker room is a weekly lease. Atlanta provides a tight test, not because they are mysterious, but because they are unapologetically themselves. They move the line of scrimmage when they can. They use play action to poke at your rules, and they trust their quarterback to take the throw the defense dares him to make. If Miami wants to steer the game, it starts with early downs. Win those, tilt the calls, control the tempo. Lose them and you'll chase. The secondary can't sit on ghosts. Eyes must match threats. Tackling has to finish the play the moment it's earned, not 2 yards later. On offense, the Dolphins need that first drive to feel like a statement without saying a word. Formation variety, tempo changes, a shot that forces the safeties to defend the full field, a run that breaks the arm tackle and leaves a defender wondering what hit him. Not bluster. Proof. Trust is the currency that buys you courage on 4th down and patience in the red zone. It's built in the cafeteria as much as it is on the practice field. Small conversations, uncomfortable ones when needed, direct without ceremony. Players know when the message is honest and when it is a performance. This week, the words carried weight because nobody tried to polish them. Veterans pulled aside younger guys and told them what a long season really means. How one brutal loss is not a sentence unless you accept it. The quarterback didn't pretend the Cleveland tape was manageable. He owned the lag in rhythm and looked teammates in the eye. The head coach cut the fluff and insisted on standard. There's a way a team stands when belief is still there, even if it's bruised. You can tell in how they jog back to the huddle after a broken play. Heads up, chin set, ready for the next call without theatrics. There's a phrase that keeps coming up. Fresh start. It sounds dramatic, but in football it can be as small as a first quarter that doesn't blink. Put together 3 drives that look like the offense knows where it's going. Stack defensive stops that don't need heroics, just leverage and pursuit, and the closing burst a roster like this should have. For a front office that hears whispers about direction, the most important answer is not a press conference. It's a scoreboard that tells the truth. The organization's core has been together long enough to know how the league talks when things wobble. You don't argue with that. You change the conversation by playing a game that refuses to give critics a hook. Clean edges. Situational poise. Enough edge to remind everyone that Miami isn't here to serve as someone else's confidence boost. Sunday becomes a mirror. The first 15 plays will tell on them. Are the motions crisp? Are the splits intentional? Is the run game getting the look it wants? Is the quarterback finishing throws without flinch? Are the tackles setting with conviction? Are the backs hitting the double without hesitation? Is the defense stacking fits so well that Atlanta's second and long menu shrinks? When the first wave of adrenaline fades, who still plays with detail? This is the kind of afternoon where the team either stitches itself tighter or frays in ways that don't get mended by Wednesday. And the whole league will watch, not because they are rooting for chaos, but because everyone recognizes a crossroad. A win doesn't erase what came before, but it can redraw the next page. A loss invites the noise to move in and make itself comfortable. Nobody is asking for a speech. Nobody needs a slogan. What matters is the next snap, then the one after, and whether the Dolphins can treat this test like the kind that forges identity instead of the one that exposes it. There is still speed here, still creativity, still players who can tilt a game with a single touch. There is still a quarterback who can distribute with timing and slice a defense if his feet and eyes merry again. There is still a defense that, when aligned and urgent, can close windows and turn third downs into punts. Pride is not a substitute for execution, but it fuels the insistence to keep searching for disciplined play when the game tries to pull you into panic. If they find that insistence early and keep it, the noise outside will go quiet on its own. If they don't, the noise will be the only thing anyone hears all week.